Coming up, he helps some of the most underserved people in the world build their own sustainable, healthy villages through health, education, microeconomic welfare services, systems, and facilities. But first, welcome to Imagine Peace, the podcast that invites you on a transformative journey toward a world filled with harmony and understanding. Together, let's ignite the flame of peace within ourselves and radiate it outward so we can have a future where unity prevails. This is Imagine Peace, where dreams become reality. Join us as we explore the power of compassion, the beauty of diversity, and the potential for positive change. Jeffrey Charles Hardy is a 30-year veteran international healthcare system, service and facility planning and design consultant. Jeff is the president and founder of Care for Peace, a 501c3 nonprofit corporation based in California with a mission to help some of the most underserved and unnoticed people in the world to build their own sustainable, healthy villages through health, education, social and microeconomic welfare services, systems, and facilities. Jeff, it really is an honor to have you here. We are so appreciative of your work.
Thank you so much. And I'm very appreciative of what you're doing because it definitely goes right to here, which is where Care for Peace resides. So join me in my heart. Thank you.
Well, tell us about your book, To Care for Peace, a global mandate to secure the second human evolution in perpetuity. The process is the solution.
Yes, that's a big mouthful, but I've got this thought that nobody reads books, but at least if they read the cover, then we've got somewhere. That's and the whole idea of caring for peace came from not just my childhood, but when I was in the United States Coast Guard, and I was a hospital corpsman trainee taking care of guys who were coming back from the Mekong Delta in the Vietnam War. So I was taking care of people. And I had this interesting feeling when I was caring for them that this is a new feeling. This is not happiness. This is it was a spiritual relationship between what I was doing and what they were receiving. It was this unbelievable feeling of care. It was not clinical delivery. It was this stuff in the heart. And it's then that I realized that I better come up with a new word for what this feeling is. And so I decided this new word should be peace. So, and it's not the place after a war, or the time between two wars, nor is it when we are sitting on top of a mountain and meditating while other people down below in the valley are suffering. We have to think about peace as something that is a mutual experience. And so that's where Care for Peace came from. I had it in my heart. And then what happened? I ended up building hospitals all over the world, and I met nurses. And guess what I realized? Not discovered, but realized that nurses already care for peace. They love it. And I can relate so much to nurses. Oh, I relate to mothers too. And I relate to caregivers of any kind because there's something about people who care. They know how to listen. They know how to dialogue. They know how to join hearts, not just words and thoughts. They know how to get together in this dynamic peace. So I realized that active caring promotes dynamic peace. And that's Care for Peace on the cover of my book. Now, the other issue is this idea of the second human evolution. What happened was I was on my way to Agra from New Delhi in a taxi cab, and we were stuck in a huge traffic jam with those big buses with and all material on top and people sitting on top of the suitcases and everything. Unbelievable mess, and yet nobody was honking horns. It was like they had accepted it. And I was thinking, okay, that's because of their religion. And I suddenly realized, wait a minute, we've got a population problem. And I'm realizing that maybe the first human evolution is over. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized, and this is like over a 1 or 2 period when I was traveling and I was in Taiwan and Bangkok and Myanmar, that, wait a minute, the first human evolution actually ended in the mid 60s. It ended when mutually assured destruction occurred. It also, at the same time, existentialism came to us from France. And very important, it came to us at the time where we started having a global peace movement. I was in churches. I live near Berkeley. I had to be at a march. That's the only way I got to the grocery store. So I think that what we have to do is look at that as the end, mid 60s, the end of the first human evolution. And so now we're in the suspended human evolution. And what that is we are still living with the residue of the first human evolution. And so we need to be able to move in our thoughts, which requires a language. And the language requires us to back up and look at humanity and where we've been and where we are and where we're going. Because where we're going is to a place that I am calling the second human evolution. And I think we have a global mandate to design, to plan, to implement the second human evolution, but we're not there yet because the suspended human evolution is a pre-planning phase where we've just got to start using the right words or our own words to look at this whole experiment in green, like the clown, as if it were his own.
Well, it sounds like a book I want to read. Oh
Well,
my God.
well, at least the cover and the back.
The cover in the back. I promise you, Jeff, I will do that. Oh
And
my,
it's not too thick.
right.
No, it isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I
No,
so
the only thick
appreciate,
part is right up here.
yeah, I appreciate what you are doing in the world, and we appreciate you coming on and spending this time with us to share your viewpoint. So, Jeff, how important is meditation to you? You know, that's what we, every day we bring the meditation. So tell us about your meditation practice.
Well, meditation to me and my practice, there's the definition and the practice. So the definition of meditation to me is positive concentration. Positive concentration. It means that I've got to get my brain into that positive spirit where the spirit's already there, but how am I going to move this forward? Because we're alive. We are moving forward right now, whether we like it or not. That's what we're doing. So we have to put that process, that process into action. And so that's the positive concentration that we need to be incorporating first. Okay, so that's my setup to sitting and focusing and doing the things that you guys are doing every single day in your podcast and your think outs, your spirit outs. I don't call it a workout, but it's what you do every day with all the people that you work with. And it's taking that focus concentration into that moment that I use when I get up in the morning. And my wife and I sit in a hot tub first thing in the morning
Oh, yum.
and we concentrate. We think. And then after a little while, we start talking. But the beauty of the meditation is that it becomes the environment for good conversations. And so meditation also has to be not only a concentration, a positive concentration to spiritually move forward, but it also is the groundwork that you have to do every time you meditate before you communicate. because our goal is to care for peace.
That's beautiful. Tell us about the work you're doing in Myanmar.
What we did with Myanmar was to build a clinic and a community development and health center in probably the most rural place in the world. I mean, let's see. Here's Burma right here, Myanmar, and our clinic is somewhere in the middle here, and it takes us about 53 hours to get to it from San Francisco. I mean, it's two layovers and a 3.5 hour boat ride and then a 1.5 hour walk just to get to the village. So the idea was to take a village and create it in a way that could be scaled out, not up, but out throughout the country. So we had an agreement with the government and with the local community and the local state, you name it, everybody, to build something that was sustainable and was something that could be replicated. So we have an agreement with the government that eventually we will be able to build 250 more of them because it's highly successful. So the idea was very simple: care for peace. If Aung San Suu Kyi's government, which was there when we started, if they look at what they're doing for their country in terms of health, education, business development, community development, utilities, you name it. If they can care for the people in a small village, then guess what? The government and the people are going to have peace. It's kind of, it's a quid pro quo. So that's why we called the organization, our nonprofit organization, our international nonprofit organization, Care for Peace. We are a 501c3. The organization was designed by the University of California, Berkeley. We had a lot of help from the University of Virginia in the setup of this process so that we could have televideo on site at the most remote place in the entire world. So what that place is it's a place that gave us an example of what a facility that followed the Care for Peace mantra, if you will, the premise of Care for Peace, that if we care, we will have peace. This started right here. It ends up right here with a lot of people. So just like what you guys are saying, 10 million people, yeah, thank you. Let's make it 8 billion.
Yeah.
We really need to take this wonderful message that we share, you and me, that we share, and share it with other people as you are doing right now. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate being able to talk with you because you already know everything I'm saying. It's just,
Well, I love that you're implementing it. So how is it affecting the people in this little village in Myanmar?
it's unbelievable. We came in with the idea of of the whole Care for Peace idea, and because I had been in mistakes, problems before, because I worked with Kaiser Foundation International in Curacao, Bahamas, Bahrain, long time ago, I knew how to make mistakes. I didn't want to make the same mistakes. And one of the things that I realized long ago is that you don't go in and do something to someone. You share your tools with them. And so we did. We shared our tools with them. It took us 4 years to share our tools with them. And then they built the center. And then they took it over. And they made it absolutely 10 million times better, bigger, most than we could have ever imagined. And they're doing things there that are more than we imagined. I mean, they built a pond next to the hospital and proceeded to grow crabs in this pond, this rainwater pond, so that they could feed the crabs to their new livestock. It's like, what? I didn't know. So the idea of the community development part was added on to the health center part thanks to them. I mean, it was just our idea to go in there and do a health center. No, it has gone way beyond what we thought. And they don't even use it says right on the front of the place, it's the Care for Peace Health Center, but it's really their health center. And I am so proud of them because when it comes time to replicate this facility, I'm going to say, hey, talk to those people. They're already
That's
doing it.
great. So does the government, I know the government changed.
Yeah.
So how is that affecting this?
It's affecting it a lot because I cannot go and ply my trade. We have some form of opening that will come to us through the American ambassador. We had a connection with the American ambassador, both of them. There was one when we got there and one before we left. At the time that we were there. But the problem now is that we would not be able to go back in because of the military junta that took over, and they they got to go at some point. So, I mean, what happened was I got my legs cut off from this whole process. I mean, we were getting ready to build the next 5 of these centers right in Rakhine State because it was close enough to our existing center before building 220 more. So it was like, what do I do now? And then I got the brainy idea of writing a book. So, you can blame, you know, Myanmar for that book I wrote. It's just anyway, I hope the answer to your question. They're doing phenomenal without my help.
But that's a wonderful, wonderful thing because they own it.
They
You
sure
know,
do.
they understand it, and that will be replicated. Now, have you thought of
Right,
doing
right.
these in other countries?
I'm sorry?
Are you planning to build more in other countries?
We have contacted 2 other countries, mostly in the Central America. Um, but we have been cautioned that they are not ready. See, the beauty of Myanmar was that Aung San Suu Kyi was like into democracy. She was into free market. It
Right.
was a perfect place for us to go. So, looking at the 2 other countries that we looked at, we have been cautioned by the global health people at University of Virginia to just, wait until we have enough of a connection that we wouldn't have to deal with corruption of the government or gangs. Um, yeah, thank you. So no, I'm gonna have to write another book now because I've got so much time on my hands. That's a joke. So, yeah, kind of difficult. But
Yes.
and by the way, I am thinking about if we can help uh you not Uganda, Ukraine. I'd love to go help Ukraine, but you know what? I wouldn't do the same thing I did in Myanmar, but I would go in there and I would find out what they want. Uh, I do a lot of listening, believe it or not. I do a lot of listening. I go in and I say, how can I help and how high? When we were in Myanmar, at first I said, how can we help and how high? And they said, well, we don't need that clinic you're talking about. We don't need a hospital. Last thing we need is a hospital. We got enough of those. What we need is a mobile health van, and we need one of those things that you're using right now, that thing that you call a computer, and that screen over there, which is a projection screen. And we also need a camera so that we can film things and then put them in the computer and then project educational stuff. So guess what? We gave them all that computerized stuff and we gave them a mobile health van. And that was 2 years. That was for 2 years before we even laid the groundwork because we just said, how can I help? How high? And I'd like to do that for Ukraine. I would love to go to that country and look at the poor people who have had their villages torn down, and I want to say, how can I help and how high? And see what kind of tools they want to get started.
A great dream. Thank you. Thank you for having that heart. And you know what you said is so important, to listen. It seems we've kind of lost touch with that art of listening, just to see, because when we listen, we get the answers.
Right.
And I fully believe wherever you're supposed to be next, you're going to hear it loud and clear.
Amen.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you a question. You've heard me say care for peace, until you're going to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning saying care for peace. Ah. How does that resonate with what you're doing?
It totally resonates with what I'm doing. I have so far focused on the United States. So for over 3 years, I've been traveling the United States, going into communities, and same thing you're doing. What do you need? How can I help? How can we come together as a community and have the same goal to be more peaceful, more united, to learn how to communicate with each other, and to share in this vision that we can have a world like that. We can have what you did was a microcosm. And so what I do when I go into a community is the same thing. It's like, this community can be more peaceful. If that community can be more peaceful, that can spread out into the rest of the world. So
Right.
caring for peace is what I do. So learning about your mission and what you have done, it just adds to it. It just gives me more fuel for my fire to keep going forward, which I have no plans on stopping at all and expanding
No,
it.
I hope not. So how do you take the meditation practice to people in a way that you can help them help others? And I
Well,
guess that's where I get the
what-
active care to dynamic peace.
One of the things that we do is we also have a monthly healing circle where people come and over Zoom, and Teri and our other director, Kumari, and I are all master energy healers. And so we're able to listen to what their needs are and direct healing energy in that way. But also the meditations that we do, it's an interactive process. We have people, interacting with us when we're on our platform. It's streamed over online. So people communicate with us, and we're always available to them because we want to listen to what they need, what their needs are.
Nice. Wow. I can't think of anything more beautiful. I showed up in, I think it was Bangkok, and went to it was a hospital related uh, process, and they were all out front of the hospital doing Tai Chi, and I was thinking, God, that's so beautiful. It's beautiful to watch. I really want to play Mozart in the background when they're doing it. That would probably be, I mean, it's really a beautiful thing. And so, and that's something that when I saw that, I thought about that dynamic element of peace. And, this whole thing where you start with that positive concentration of meditation, and then you elevate that to the dynamic process of caring for people, caring for people. Hey, I like that. So what do we do so that will get them into a state where they can take that beyond the meditation? Because what you're doing is not just the right start, it's the groundwork. What do you do to help them move forward into their lives and in their discussions with other people?
Well, we're also planning. Teri has done some training to become a peace ambassador, and we will be having a similar program to send people out as ambassadors in their communities and in their schools, so that we'll be doing further training with that.
A peace ambassador?
Yeah.
That is absolutely wonderful.
International peace ambassador. But we also, Jeff, when we do these daily meditations, we also encourage people to continue in that state of being, to continue being peace, because that's what it's going to take. Is once you reach that place inside, you feel that inner peace, continue to be that peace so that others see that in you. You know, change is going to come with each person doing this, with each of us realizing we have a role to make this happen in the world and to shine
So
that light for us to see.
do you try to loop back and get their stories about, okay, you took this into the world, now how did you do that? And wow, you've got a great chicken soup of the spiritual soul here. I mean, because if you got a peace ambassador out there, they can come back and say, okay, this is how I took that concept and brought it back. Okay, I have meditations in my meetings. My company was bought by a fundamentalist Christian organization, which was fine. I got rid of all this bureaucratic stuff. But they said prayers before every single meeting. And I'm thinking, well, wouldn't it be great to meditate before every meeting and get people into that concentration, that positive and
Absolutely.
moving it forward? But you've got the makings of the next chicken soup of the spiritual soul, which in a lot of ways, chicken soup of the soul is spiritual. So,
Right.
but I think that if you're an ambassador out there, just think of the wonderful stories that you can write,
Oh,
that other people are writing for
I
you.
I have 3 years worth of stories.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Are you writing them down? Are you,
Oh, she's
Yeah, I
writing.
do.
darn, there you go. There
We're
you
both
go.
writing.
I write
That
a
is
blog
just great.
I write a blog every day. So it's it's just sharing. When we share our stories, that's the purpose for
Yeah,
sharing
yeah,
them. So other people can see also, hey, if that person can do that, I can certainly be more peaceful. I can share with
oh, yeah.
others how to be peaceful.
I
Yeah.
can
Now you
choose.
said you're going to start in America first, right? You're starting in this
I
country first.
have. I've been doing it for 3.5 years and have plans for international. So that's not solidified yet, but I wanted to say, this training that I've been doing to be an international peace ambassador, they focus on positive peace, which is exactly what you did in Myanmar. It's exactly what you're doing with your work, is how do we make the communities better? How do we make them more sustainable? How can we help them economically to
Right,
thrive? So
right,
that is the biggest part of what I am learning, is how do we do this? How do we take this
right,
forward?
right.
There's negative piece, which is the anti-war. Let's focus on stopping stuff. The positive piece is how do we bring it together now in our world?
See, I love your title is Imagine Peace. Well, my job, that first of all, I was a healthcare planner, so I had project management people helping me, and planning is this whole process that I try not to get involved in now because I'm in the pre-planning stage of the sustainable human evolution. So when I think of imagining, yeah, imagining now what my book is about is, okay, you're starting to imagine it. So now, how do we change the world if we don't know how?
Yes.
How is my job? I'm trying to share people some tools from my background. How? Now, the connection that I see in what you're doing, where you're a peace ambassador and you're going out and you're helping people in their communities. Now, I'm looking at what the bleed off could be, which I think definitely is that chicken soup of the soul kind of a book. But I think also the next step is a lot of the how. Okay, how are you going to help us design the second human evolution? How are you going to help us help yourself? Or, how? And the whole process, in fact, that I lay out in the book is we have to use very simple tools to get everybody to discuss. I've got a tool called From To that when I have meetings, I say, okay, what's the from to? Because the first thing I got to do is get people to discuss an issue as opposed to bringing in their opinion. I want you to discuss an issue. Okay, what's the issue that we're discussing? We're talking about abortion. Okay, let's not talk about abortion. because you're going to bring your opinion to that discussion. Let's talk about how we can talk about the population problem. You don't even have to talk about control, because control isn't good. Oh, well, if we can't use control, what do we use? And so in one of my meetings, we came up with population continuity. Great idea. Let's call it population continuity, which is wonderful, because my wife and I practice population continuity, because we each had our child. We replicated ourselves, and that's it. We had 2 children. That's it. And so we start as globally as we can to get people to start thinking globally before they even talk about acting globally. They say, think globally, act globally. Well, that's locally. Well, that's the imagination part. Yeah, that's a great imagination. Now, how are you going to get there?
It's
What are
the
you going to,
derivative part, the generality, greater generality.
Yes, exactly.
Jeff, we could sit here and talk with you for hours and hours, and I have a feeling we're going to need to continue our conversation, but I think we're going to need to wind down. How can people get in touch with you?
Oh, they can just send me a email if they want. I mean, I'm Jeff at careforpeace.org. careforpeace.org. Oh, and if they want to buy the book, they can. But I'm not selling a lot of the books. That's my what is it called? My calling card. Okay.
Yeah.
In fact, I've given so many of the books away. Anybody I know, they've got one, whether they ask for it or not.
And I also want to recommend your website, which is just wonderful. I love the song, which we didn't even talk about. So you need to go there at careforpeace.org and check out the song.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. But thank you so much, ladies, for what you are doing and who you are. Oh, see, my cup, I have something on my cup. It's a quote from my song. Who you are is what you give with your heart and with your hands to care for peace.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I love that.
Yeah, you have a gorgeous heart, Jeff.
Thank you, and absolutely so to both of you. Thank you.
Thank you for
I feel
being
like I'm already, am I a peace ambassador now? Don't I get my credentials?
You are
Are you
a
going to
peace
send me,
ambassador.
are you going to send me some links?
You don't need credentials.
Okay.
You are a peace ambassador.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Really
Thank
nice.
you. Imagine Peace is brought to you by 10 Million for World Peace. Join our daily 7-minute guided meditations for world peace and monthly healing circles at 10millionforworldpeace.org. Together we can create a peaceful, happy planet.